All right, everybody, welcome back into Cherry Picking. Today's video, we're going to be looking at must-draft defensemen. You know, we've hit on every other position except for D-men, so today we're going to be looking at them. If you've yet to watch the draft strategy video, be sure to check that one out. It was the one we posted just before this video. Had Steven Sahoyas on, former Yahoo Fantasy Hockey writer and insider. Had some great insights on how to draft your fantasy hockey teams for the upcoming season, so be sure to check that out. Subscribe before we get into players, and let's see which D-men we're drafting this year. All right, so the first must-draft defenseman we're looking at is Miro Heiskanen on the Dallas Stars. Really like this guy this year. He's actually going to his 6th year, even though he is very young. He's been in the league since he's pretty much been 18. This last season was actually the second time he had double-digit goals apart from his rookie season, where he had a career high of 12. But we saw him add about 50 shots to his total from a season ago, hitting 200 plus, a number I think he can definitely hit again this year with how offensive this Dallas team is. Shooting percentage, again, will probably be around 5-6%. Be great if we saw that go up to 7 or 8, but that's a little bit, wishful thinking, I guess you could say, in that sense. He finished 7th in expected goals for amongst defensemen, which I think is really important. He finished 6th in points as well with 73. His blocks and hits take a little bit of a hit there for sure if you're speaking in relative terms. Obviously, not going to be getting as many hits as blocks as guys like Bouchard or something like that. Definitely more skilled, puck-moving defenseman. But this Stars power play finished 5th best in the NHL last year. He actually was tied amongst defensemen for the most power play points with Quinn Hughes. That was 34. So even if the Stars power play does go down a little bit, which I don't think it really will at this point, he'll probably go down to maybe 27, 28 power play points, which is still top 10 in the NHL. I think this guy is definitely going to be a Norris candidate at some point in this season. So definitely look at drafting this guy relatively early. All right, the next guy we're going to be looking at, Evan Bouchard on the Edmonton Oilers, a guy that should have his breakout season this year. Was close last year with 40 points, only had 8 goals. But I think this year, with Tyson Barrie gone, I think it just leaves another area open for him to elevate his offensive game. He's officially the top D-man. Alongside Darnell Nurse, of course. They're going to be playing on the top pair together. But the biggest thing here, he only played about 18 minutes per game last season. Obviously saw that trajectory go up throughout the playoffs and in the regular season after Tyson Barrie got moved to Nashville. But I think we'll see about 21 to 22 minutes. And then on the power play as well, I think his role will be elevated. He's a great puck-moving defenseman. He has an absolute cannon from the point as well. I think we'll see him quarterback the power play a little bit more than we saw last year for sure. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins finished with 53 power play points last season. I don't think that's going to happen again this year. We saw a little bit of a power shift, honestly, in the playoffs last year. Evan Bouchard finished with 15 power play points in their playoff run. He had 4 goals. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins had 9 power play points and no goals. Those were all assists. So we saw that change a little bit in the playoffs. Jay Woodcroft definitely going to be taking note of that heading into this season as well. Bouchard also a guy I kind of mentioned with Miro Heiskanen who can probably get to that 100 blocks, 100 hits point this season. And if he does, that's a top 10 fantasy hockey defenseman, especially if he boosts his 40 points up to like 50 or 60. We saw last year he had 95 hits, 77 block shots. If you kind of do the math or look at 18 minutes per game compared to probably what's going to be about 21 to 22 minutes per game on the ice this year, I think that can definitely happen. Evan Bouchard is a must-draft for me. The next guy we're going to be looking at, Noah Dobson on the New York Islanders. ADP is around 111, 112 right now. I think it's an absolute steal if you can get him at that point. Last year, just under 50 points. A guy who plays on a team is honestly just inept at scoring, but he's an exception to the rule. Don't generally tell people to take players that are on the New York Islanders. He was actually 4th in ice time amongst defensemen last year, like a little bit less than Adam Pelech and some of those other guys at the top of the New York Islanders lineup. But I think it's strange because you look at the season before, and he actually did lead the team in general, not just defensemen, in minutes per game on the ice. So I think maybe Lane Lambert was trying to just figure out his team a little bit more, was trying to maybe give the veterans a little bit more time. I don't know what the difference was, but when Barry Trotz was there, Dobson was playing even better than he was just a season ago. Finished 13th in expected goals for last year. That's higher than Victor Hedman, Alex Pietrangelo, Vince Dunn, guys who scored a lot of goals, guys who are up in the 60 to 70 point range. He's sneaky offensive, and on the power play as well, he commands a lot of the attention, a lot of the shots from the point as well. I think this Islanders power play can't get much worse. I think it was bottom 3 in the NHL last year, and he still almost had 20 power play points. So he's by far the most offensive defenseman on this team. If the Islanders are serious about scoring more goals this year, he is your guy. All right, the next guy who's definitely flying under radars this year, I think just because of where he was last year and being moved back over to the Carolina Hurricanes, but it's Tony DeAngelo. Just a season ago with the Carolina Hurricanes, he had 51 points in about 64 games. This D-core is absolutely loaded. I think it's probably the best in the NHL now that they brought back DeAngelo and brought over Dmitry Orlov. You might not think he'll get his share of the opportunities, but this guy just finds ways to get points. You know, you're looking at his last 3 full seasons, he's had pretty much at least 50 points, except for last year he had 42 with the Flyers. The Flyers were absolutely garbage last year. And just to put things into perspective, last year with the Flyers, played 70 games, finished with 42 points, playing about 18, 19, or 21, 22 minutes per game. Look at the season before that when he was on Carolina. He had played 64 games. He had 51 points, playing about 19 to 19 and a half minutes per game. So just a lot more efficient, obviously, on a team that is just offensively more efficient than the Philadelphia Flyers. Brendan Moore brought him back because last year the Carolina Hurricanes power play was god-awful. You know, for a team that's so good everywhere else, they were just not efficient on the power play. They're 20th in terms of power play percentage. If you look at a season ago when DeAngelo was on the team, they were still in the top 12. So much better. I think you'll see him quarterbacking that first power play again with Brent Burns alongside him. Even if he's playing 19 minutes a game, I think he's way more valuable than a lot of these other guys that are going at his ADP, like Jacob Trouba, Forsling, Rasmus Anderson. I think all those guys are worse options than Tony DeAngelo on a Carolina team that I think will be scoring a lot of goals this year. All right, another guy we're going to be drafting at defenseman this year, Condre Miller on the New York Rangers. I've talked about this guy ad nauseum throughout the offseason. I'm really high on a lot of these Rangers defensemen, to be honest, and Condre Miller being a guy that I think can even have another kind of mini breakout season again after almost doubling his point total from the season before. Went from about 20 points to 43 points last year, and just 3 of those points coming on the power play. I think that's one of the biggest things that'll change. Peter Laviolette, the new head coach of the New York Rangers, gets the most out of his defensemen. You know, if you look at his track record, John Carlson in Washington has had some of his best seasons under Peter Laviolette. You know, Roman Josi, even PK Subban when he was in Nashville, maybe not defensively, but he was still putting up 60 to 70 points in some of those seasons. You can even add Ryan Ellis to that list when he was in Nashville too. And then even way back when Laviolette was coaching Philly, Kimmo Timonen had some of his best years on the blue line as well, racking up to 40 to 50 points. Obviously a little bit of a different time in the league, but you perennially see these multiple defensemen on teams that Peter Laviolette coaches to 40, 50, 60 points. You know, even in the COVID year, Washington, when they played 50, 56 games, Carlson, Schultz, and Orlov all point produced pretty solidly on that Capitals team. I think Miller can get up to 50 points. 60 points is obviously his ceiling, I would say, but I think this kid has a lot of upside. More time on the power play, more trust from his coach, and then a combo that with 100 hits and 100 blocks, which is pretty much what he had last year, a recipe for a top 10, top 15 defenseman. I think he can absolutely achieve that top 15 defenseman kind of accolade this season in terms of fantasy hockey. Yes, is probably his ceiling, but when you're drafting a guy at ADP about 147, 148, I don't think that's that crazy, and a lot of people are drafting him a lot earlier than what his actual Yahoo Fantasy Hockey rank is. So definitely keep your eye on Condre Miller a little bit later in drafts. He'll be going a lot earlier than expected. All right, so the last must-draft defenseman we're going to be looking at, someone in the similar light to Condre Miller, but just hasn't gotten there yet. It's Jake Sanderson. I think this guy is ready for a big year, especially on this Ottawa Senators team that's going to be super offensive. I think he's definitely going to help with that. He's one of the best skaters probably on his team, and probably going to be, after this season, considered one of the top skaters as a defenseman. Looking at his season last year, his rookie year, played 77 games, 4 goals, 28 assists. The biggest thing, his time on the ice by the end of the year, he averaged about 22 minutes per game on the ice. We saw that continually increase throughout the entire season. I think he just got more trust from his coaching staff, from like other players on the team as well. Thomas Chabot has talked nothing but good things about this kid as well. I think we'll see a lot more time on the power play for Jake Sanderson as well. You know, obviously that first power play is stacked with Brady Tkachuk, Stützle, Chabot, Giroux, but that second power play is very good as well. You have Drake Batherson, Josh Norris, now Jake Sanderson, probably Jacob Chychrun as well. So definitely a lot of mouths to feed on this Ottawa Senators team, but I just think at this ADP of 166, it's just too hard to pass on this guy right now. He's also going to be playing with Artem Zub. He is totally a stay-at-home defenseman. So when they're on the ice, he's going to be controlling the puck in the offensive end, bringing it into the zone as well, breaking out the puck. So he'll definitely be able to get you those secondary assists kind of. He blocks a lot of shots. He actually is quite physical as well. He's pretty tall body. I think Jake Sanderson going at that ADP of 166 is definitely something you can't really miss out on. All right, thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know what you thought of this year's must-draft defenseman. If there's any other guys on your mind that I missed out on, please make sure to comment. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video for Must Draft Sleepers.